Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday Detroit Lions Lone Wolves podcast. I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. Like last week, Tuesday, this is being recorded earlier in the day. I'll be in this evening trying to thaw from the cold ass weather out there. My goodness, it's cold. I took a walk, and I give you guys credit if you had to be outside for an extended period of time. My goodness, but I'll be attending my daughter's soccer practice, doing the dad thing. But listen, we got to talk about it still. There's a heavy debate being waged online, and it's real interesting. There are those that are skeptical regarding Drew Petzing, and there is strong support from the analytical crowd, from those that say, well, this is a coach that had to deal with a lot of extenuating circumstances regarding his time with the Arizona Cardinals. So we got to settle it. We got to settle it now. You've had an opportunity. Listen, Monday is the first reaction. Everybody's entitled to their feelings. You know, only a handful of people can't handle it. It's too negative. We can't handle it. We can't handle the debate. A lot of good talk early on regarding the initial shock that Drew Petzing is the offensive coordinator. Now you've had a time to look at the stats. Have you started to warm up a little bit to this offensive coordinator? Let's debate it. Let's take a quick look at what some national media is saying and what the loud voice that's coming from Arizona. And all you got to do is I validate the Arizona Cardinal fans. They watch it intently. They are paying attention to what's going on. They're watching the play calling sequencing. And look, it does not, just based on what I've read and the understanding and watching film, it's not that this coach doesn't have the foundational scheme to be able to succeed with 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets. That's going to be interesting. Do you want the Detroit Lions, yes or no, to incorporate more 2 and 3 tight end sets? That's going to be interesting because that would obviously open up more running opportunities to get, potentially Brock Wright and Sam Laporta more involved. Maybe you draft another tight end. But at the same token, what does that mean for Tesla? That can only mean if you're going to target Laporta and Brock Wright a little bit more, get them more involved, then that's just going to naturally mean less targets for somebody that you invested a couple of draft picks in. That's why it lends to some of the debate. Wait a minute. Did Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes really do some long-term thinking about this offense and what's happening? It's wild to think about, right? It's wild to think about because if you're going to go and want to dominate more in the run and be a team that is run heavy, what does that mean for Amon-Ra St. Brown? What does that mean for Jamison Williams? It means sell in fantasy football. Sell. I wonder, I'm definitely going to be keening in on early how often Amon-Ra, J-Mo, and Tesla are targeted. Might be less and more for Gibbs and more for Sam Laporta. Are you okay with that? When you notice, okay, Dan Campbell wants to shift and get back to a heavy run scheme. And I do think that, the Lions have always been kind of an organization, an offense that wants to tailor matchups against who their opponent is. But the run heavy principles are there. And that kind of lends to, if you're going to pay Jahmyr Gibbs $20 million, you're going to have to start using him. What's your thoughts? After settling down, look, we all can acknowledge that everyone should be emotional after an important hire. This is the Detroit Lions. And if you're not able to handle the emotional ups and downs, this is not the place for you. Go post in other spots how safe you need it, how happy you need it. No, I have everything with a skeptical eye. And the reason is Dan Campbell had a guy that wanted to be run first, Anthony Lynn. That's why really the John Morton hire is atrocious. It just gets worse by the day that you went so far away from Ben Johnson with John Morton, who couldn't scheme up a run plan in his experience. But let's take a quick look now at what some of the national media are saying. They're supportive. They like what they're seeing. They're of the opinion it's a good hire. Let's take a look here at what Peter Schrager has to say, as well as Quincy Avery. Peter Schrager, Drew Petzing is a widely respected young offensive coach. Legit head coaching buzz when he had a healthy starting quarterback. Surprised the hires being panned. Alas, I guess we will see. Quincy Avery is like, I too am shocked. RS had to game plan against Drew and him multiple times a year, and I think he was really aware of how good a play caller designer he is. Not sure why folks with no knowledge or awareness would think they know better. It's always interesting to look at the comments under Quincy's post. Mr. Cooper, it's cuck energy. They don't know what they have. They don't think what they have is worth having unless someone else wants it too. Peter Schrager replies, negativity sells. At the very least, I think fans would give a hand-picked coach a shot. And the Arizona fans are battling strong. And I respect the Arizona fans. It would be like if John Morton gets a job, are you going to go and defend John Morton? No, you probably would say he had a bad run here. Coming from somebody who watched every snap of the Cardinals for the last 3 years, and I have coaching experience, Drew Petzing is not who you think he is. Running the ball on 3rd and 8 with the game on the line is complete coaching malpractice on any level. So this is the dichotomy. This is the perfect dichotomy. And shout out to AZ Boy Chef. Shout out to Quincy Avery and to Peter Schrager. This is the perfect dichotomy of what's going on. You have the media who are quick to say, let's wait it out. Let's see what happens. Don't challenge. Don't equate what happened with John Morton to Drew Petzing. No, you got to. Dan Campbell has a 66% failure rate in regards to picking his offensive coordinator. 2 out of the 3 have not been good. So you have to reasonably understand that Dan Campbell is on the hook for this hire. Pretty simple. And this is stuff that is normal. Guys, I understand you want the loyalty and dynasty of having the romanticized version that Dan Campbell will be here for 20 years. This is a win now business. Okay, when you're charging people $400 a ticket and they're not winning games, no, you don't get 10 years. I'm sorry. Start getting your tissues ready. Start buying. Listen, if you're a softie, go start buying your tissues. Get them ready. If Dan Campbell don't win, he'll be dismissed like everybody else, and he knows it. He knows it. Everybody knows it. So this hire has to work. This is a big-time hire. And there's a lot of reasons why it could. But I think that what is big and maybe is understated is I think Drew Petzing's got the foundational background to be successful. Multiple positions coached, understands the schemes, understands what plays to put in the playbook each week. Now, the next step, which he clearly has to take a step up in at this level. At Arizona, you can get excuses. Oh, you had Kyler Murray, you had this, you had that, and you were successful. But you also have to be judged by your play calling prowess. What plays do you pick when? Are you able to execute on 3rd and 4th down? When do you call trick plays? What do you do on 1st and 2nd down? How do you sequence plays to set up plays later? Can you disguise certain things? So this is where everybody is going to have to wait and see. Can he sequence plays? Can he use all the weapons and call the right plays at the right time? If he does, he'll have big success. What's your confidence level in his play calling? I think a lot of people said, hey, when things get tight, this guy gets conservative and predictable. The biggest knock is his predictable play calling. So put it on the table. It's not, listen, you can flash as many numbers at me as you want, but those numbers don't dictate what plays he calls at what time. And on 4th down, over 3 years, he was the worst. The Arizona Cardinals, 32nd out of 32 teams on 4th down over 3 years. Now, a lot of good rushing numbers over 3 years. At least top half. How much are you evaluating what he did with a bunch of injuries in 2025 versus the whole 3 years? He has a good repertoire over 3 years. But it is a what have you done for me lately league. But are you the type that says, hey, I'm just going to look at 23 and 24 and I'm going to just call 25 an outlier? I don't. I look at the whole body of work and I include, with some injuries, remember, in regards to the injuries, Sam Laporta is one bad block away from, those back injuries are no joke. You all know. One block and he don't feel right and he's on the shelf and he ain't moving. He's on the pad. He's on that pad swinging over and over trying to get that back right. From the chiropractor. So I'm of the opinion that I respect the Cardinal fans that are mad. They're mad. They're big mad. And they say this guy's predictable. His play sequencing was terrible. And they are voicing replies to national media and to the Lions fans that are like, give it a shot, give it a shot. Where are you? I'm curious to read. I'll be sitting comfortably, hopefully warm at my daughter's soccer practice. I'll be reading and hopefully commenting with you guys. Where do you stand now 48 hours after the news? You still shocked? You still disappointed? More and more support from media. And listen, I respect the fans that emotionally react. I think it's great because you care. Because you realize that the last hire didn't work out. What are you supposed to think when the head coach hires an offensive coordinator and everybody's like, well, John Morton he built the offense. That was a selling point last year. He built the offense. I fell for it. I was wrong. Coaching matters. So it's a big time hire. It's a big time hire, and I think the Lions have to get this right. I think that everybody that is starting to see what he brings to the table, they really like the run game. They really like the fact that play action was successful. Run action was successful. They were able to make stars of other players as well. But you do have to be concerned about Marvin Harrison. Why didn't he progress? And Kyler Murray. You still had you paid the quarterback, so you still got to use him and implement him in the best way possible. And many people are feeling like, well, is it easy just for you to say he stinks and move on? Because you got to be able to scheme Jared Goff and have opportunities to figure out what to do just in case things go off platform, off schedule. It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work where everything that you want, it goes exactly on every given play. So where do you stand? 24 to 48 hours later, are you feeling a little better about Drew Petzing running this offense? I think it's going to be great for Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta. I am a little concerned what's it going to do to the wide receivers. And, how is Jared Goff going to respond? I'm curious. What's your thought? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Are you more intrigued by Drew Petzing and the possibility of this working? Or are you saying, well, there's a little challenge here in regards to the noise that's coming out of Arizona? They were not happy. And listen, he was part of a staff that got dismissed. Was not good enough overall. Defense wasn't good enough. The coach, Gannon, wasn't good enough. And I would say, too, that there's lessons he needs to learn in regards to things moving forward. It's a real intriguing hire because this is something that I think when you look at it, it's been reported that the Lions didn't feel that Mike McDaniel was, quote unquote, the right fit. Well, why wouldn't McDaniel, who's led an offense that's been the top of the league, 4,600 yards for Tua Tagovailoa, was able to, even without the best offensive line, be able to run the football and had a center that was drafted, that was, off the radar, became somebody this year for the Miami Dolphins. So, and I think that, I don't know, did the Lions pull the trigger too soon, knowing that Joe Brady is is now available. But I do think that here's my theory as to kind of how all this went down. It's kind of clear. I think it was important that Dan Campbell wants continuity. Dan Campbell did not want to coach, and he hinted at it. In a moment of honesty, I think he told reporters, like, I might just still call plays because I don't want to let the next guy go and have him be courted by everybody else. Now, the expectation is Drew Petzing is going to call plays. It will be his job to sequence, call the plays, let Dan Campbell do other things. I'm hoping that the opportunity presents itself that this play caller can call plays for the whole year. Please, we don't want to have that become a narrative, at least by at least go to week 13. Get us to week 13, 14 before Dan Campbell starts getting antsy. You hope that that's not the case. You hope that the opportunity presents itself to be able to stay in the role, stay in what you got to do. But what do you guys think? I'm curious. Make sure you keep smashing the like button. Thank you for becoming members of the stream, member of our community. All you got to do is become a member. You have access to the emojis, and it's really cool. It's really cool to think about. Now, let's check in with an Arizona reporter. I was fortunate enough to reach out to Donnie Drew, and he covered Drew Petzing for 3 years in Arizona, and I got a chance to ask him 5 questions, and here's what he had to say. And I asked him some relatively fair questions. I thought that if you check it out, you'll get a clear understanding. Here's what was said, and it's great when you have a connection with a network. What are the Lions getting in new offensive coordinator Drew Petzing? See how nice and highlighted and bold that is at the Lions on SI website, which I appreciate you guys supporting. Drew Petzing, the more I think about it, makes sense for the Lions. When you look at what the new coordinator's best offense looks like, it was leaning on a strong running game and utilizing play action to keep defenses honest. Jared Goff seems to be a really good fit for what Petzing's ideal offense looks like. While Detroit already has a strong running game established with premier weapons in the passing game too. His experience in Arizona didn't go anywhere according to plan, but if he can learn the lessons, his tenure in Detroit shouldn't be a repeat of the first time calling plays for the Cardinals. So it's going to be acknowledged. His first time calling plays was not good. And I said to him, to Donnie Druin, some Cardinal fans were quite unhappy. Is it predictable? He goes, I think it was a mixed bag of truth and fans just being unhappy with a poor football team. Just like any coordinator, Petzing would have some staple calls that fans didn't love. Draw plays and screens on long distance downs just to eat some yards back. Though situationally, it felt like the Cardinals were at the bottom of the league. In gotta have it moments, numerous opposing defense were able to sniff out Petzing's play call and spoke on how film study really prepped them. That's the key. Growth. That's not new in the NFL, and execution does trump all, though the offense is already disadvantaged if that's the case. There were many problems in Arizona this last year in 2025, and while Petzing may not have been the number one option, he clearly was not the solution. When his offense, I asked Donnie what the strengths and weaknesses are. When Petzing's offense gets going, it's tough for defenses to really predict. He really strived for a balanced approach, and so long as Detroit is able to run the football, the Lions' play-action game should be among the best in the league with Goff running the show. If Detroit needs to churn some clock and wear a defense out in the final minutes of a game, the offense can be set up to do just that. On the other side of the coin, his biggest downfall has been his inability to adjust and adapt. Petzing, for lack of better terms, is stubborn in his approach to game planning. Defenses quickly figured out if you load the box and force the Cardinals into obvious passing scenarios, Petzing's attack quickly became one-dimensional. Good coordinators adapt to their weapons, while Petzing simply tried to force his weapons to adapt to his system, which only generated more frustration from everyone involved. Petzing's rushing attack quickly went downhill once offensive line coach Clayton Adams departed Arizona, which was disappointing given Petzing's background in that department. Adding to that, his passing schemes are simply not on par with modern-day NFL offenses. And too many times it felt like the Cardinals weren't prepared to win a track meet if they had to. Oh boy, it's a complete mixed bag, right? And that's what we do here. We give you the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, and that's the truth of the matter. What's your reaction to reading that? That's kind of my reaction too, was like, okay, can this guy bring the passing game into 2025 and beyond in 2026? So this was where my concern comes in and why we felt Mike McDaniel might have been an option. And here's the theory. The Lions went away, I think, too much from what they were good at with John Morton, clearly. Now you have a coach that wants to be a running type offense and be able to win the battle of the of time of possession, keep the game maybe lower possessions. Are you going to continue this pattern of Jared Goff only throwing 5 to 6 yards, air yards per pass? It was the lower half of the league. Have you, in essence, rendered Jared Goff useless? Where is the balance going to be between Petzing being aggressive, forcing the ball downfield to J-Mo, and finding open targets to Amon-Ra and to Tesla, versus 2nd down and 8 running the football? It kind of, to me, and I said this on my latest Doc and Jock podcast, which airs on Detroit Sports Podcast Network, that Dan Campbell wants to revert back to bully ball, back to 1992 football. Is that going to fly? I hope that Petzing gets a little bit more pass happy, gets a little bit excited with the Ferrari and is able to call some unique pass plays. But if they're not exotic enough, that's what Ben Johnson's, I think, superpower was, the ability to scheme guys open. Do you see why Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay are elite? Not only are they elite in their ability to call plays, but their ability to scheme open receivers and from a variety of sets to be able to have guys run free. That's key. What's your reaction to my chat with Donnie Druin? Does that make you a little bit more nervous? I think it's, to me, it is very much on a skeptical side that this guy is going to catch up in 2026 to the level of, you got to remember, you're matching wits with great defensive coordinators and against other offensive minds that are going to look to score points. Kyle Shanahan is not going to slow down, but he's not going to have the same weapons. Kittle might be down for the whole 26 season. You might not have the same competition, but Ben Johnson, I don't think is going to slow down his prowess. Reading what you have been reading, do you come down a little bit, or do you say, wait a minute, this looks like a guy that also has still opportunities that he needs to grow and figure out how to advance his play calling and his passing schemes? It feels like the more you read, it's a good hire, but not elite. And many people felt like Joe Brady and Mike McDaniel could be elite. That's the difference. That's the nature of fuel, is like when you're that close to something, I think people don't understand, well, why would you surmise all this emotion about a hire? Well, Dan Campbell butchered the last one. It derailed the season. You didn't stack wins for 2 months. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. That's how it went. You had an average football team, a 9-8 football team. And when you have an average football team, when you're in a Super Bowl window, it just doesn't feel like the moves again are made to get the Lions over the hump. It feels like when, the Lions feel like with the talent that they have and they could acquire, that they could win in 2026. That move with Drew Petzing kind of indicates that they want to grow with this offense and take it to a spot where maybe even in 26 and 27, they can keep the same coordinator and not have anybody flirt with them. I don't think Drew Petzing is going to be a hot name coming out of Detroit. Do you? Do you think Drew Petzing is going to become an NFL head coach from working with Dan Campbell? Let's decide. Is he going to go the way of John Morton or Ben Johnson? And it's okay to have an opinion. I respect everybody's opinion on it. I'm more skeptical. I think that you got to have the right blend of run plays and pass plays. And I wonder how Jared Goff is going to respond to this offense. Let me know. I'm curious. Very big hire. A lot of talk about it still. A lot of interesting manners in which some fans got so rattled. I can't believe the fans are negative. I can't believe it. Listen, if you're a youngster and you can't handle sports debate, this might not be the platform for you. Go read a book. Go sledding outside. Don't hop in the fire of sports debate. It's not for you. I can't handle it. I want positivity. Who gets the credit for 4 wins, 4 seasons that end in winning years? The fan base don't give a shit. They want one thing. Are you in the Super Bowl? Are you about to have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl or not? Let's grow up. You can live your life in Reddit chats, or you can grow up and say, you know what? This is big boy type stuff, and we got to enter the fray here on X and in the chats here. I think some people need to hang out in the Reddit rooms, or on Facebook in their fan pages. This guy has, Drew Petzing has such an efficient offense, and I can if you can't handle it, go sit on the internet, stay off of YouTube and stay off of X, and go sit and read PFF and play in the stat land where you're safe. This is where we talk about the good, bad, and ugly of the Detroit Lions, who have a shitty football history. It's funny how people can't handle this is not even the toughest debate that's going to be had. Wait till we start talking about the draft pick. Offensive line, defensive line. Where does he go? Where's free agency dollars allocated? This is a skeptical fan base. And when you come off of a year where you don't make the playoffs, what do you want people to be cheering? People are pissed. The team didn't make the playoffs. The AFC and NFC championship games are Sunday. You're nowhere close to it. You are not even close to the 14 teams that are there. You got to retool a lot of holes. So this hire is very important in my opinion. And that's why people are talking about it strongly. And those that are skeptical are wondering why you don't just try to bring in the best of the best coaches. And I do believe that McDaniel would have put together an offense that would have been probably top 5. All those weapons, a nice training camp, 4th place schedule. I think that gives the team room. But guess what? Before we get out of here, thanks for listening in on this Tuesday. Are you concerned about the new hires that were made? 2 coaches on the Lions schedules. 2 coaches on the Lions schedule have been hired. Detroit Lions are going to face Robert Saleh and John Harbaugh in 2026. What do you think about the Titans landing? What do you think about the Titans landing Robert Saleh and the Giants landing John Harbaugh? I think that's interesting for the Giants. Let's start there. I think it's interesting when you look at it that John Harbaugh, in his deal with the Ravens and now the Giants, wants to report to the owner and not the GM. It puts the GM in such an awkward spot where the Joe Shane of the Giants is like, yeah, it's collaboration. Everybody that I've worked with collabs and we got to work together. But and Joe Shane's like, it's just stuff on paper. But John Morton doesn't have to answer to the GM. John Morton will have final say on some big decisions. And look, I think it's fair. If you're Joe Shane, just, yeah, that's what he wants, then we'll do that. If your coach is making $20 million, you need to be quiet. But I think the Giants, I would have thought prior to the Harbaugh signing, would have been a little bit of an easier situation. Now it looks a little bit tougher with Jackson Dart. It's going to be interesting to see what Cam Scadaboo looks like. What do you think about Robert Saleh being hired by the Tennessee Titans? I think that the second go around might be a little bit better for him, but he's got Cam Ward. They got to figure it out. Could Mike McDaniel go there? That would be intriguing. maybe not so much in the glare of the spotlight in Tennessee. The defense is going to be interesting. I do like I like facing a Robert Saleh defense while it's challenging with the front four. If you can figure out the zone, you have opportunities to get bend, don't break type stuff, but you got to get past the pressure from a defensive front that this defensive mind likes to go with, and he can win. He likes to have ferocious defenses, and they've been pretty good. But can he do it year one? It's going to be interesting because Saleh did get the best of Drew Petzing twice with the 49ers. Are you concerned? Two opponents might be a little bit more difficult in 2026. I'm interested. I like the hire. I think both have an opportunity to do things that are at an interesting level. To pay attention to league news, Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator of the Packers, now lands in Miami. That's interesting. I think the Lions do go out on the road to play Miami. I think I might, think about it, guys. I might be going to Miami. Doc in Miami. If you guys know, I have a colleague in Miami. If he's paying attention, get ready. You might have to have some Havana Nights in South Beach. Doc might want to take on South Beach for round 2. I did it when I was younger. Woo! We hung out at Nikki Beach and we had a good old time. Ate the seafood, partied on the street there by the ocean, down in South Beach. But more my style is Fort Lauderdale, walking amongst the older people. I'm more of a South Florida kind of guy. You see my gray hairs popping out. I'm liking Florida, but Miami's like the festival of partying. It might not be my speed full time anymore, but we can have some fun. Hey, Poppy. Hey, man. Titans, Giants, Dolphins. It's going to be interesting. But I'm curious. Like I said, the fans are having the full-on debate. I love it online, and I love the fact that the fans are passionate and planting their flags. I love it. That's what sports is. Sports is the opportunity to be able to debate your thoughts in a reasonable manner. And yeah, people are emotional because I do think that Joe Brady and I do think that Mike McDaniel would have had some success with the Detroit Lions. But it's not the case. Not the case at all. And just a reminder about Joe Brady, which was so interesting. It was brought up by Can't Guard Jalen on X. Such a good post. A little background on Joe Brady. Comes from the Sean Payton coaching tree, working under him as an offensive assistant for the Saints in 2017, 2018, alongside Dan Campbell. Before going to LSU, and in Coach Orgeron's words, becoming the mastermind behind LSU's record-breaking 2019 offensive system, which saw Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, and Clyde all put up record-breaking numbers. He struggled in Carolina in 2020, but the QB play was horrible, and they had to bring in Cam Newton. Joined the Bills as a QB coach and took over in 2023 took over as the offensive coordinator. Under Brady, the Bills were 4th in total yards per game, tied for 4th in points per game, while having the top-ranked rushing attack and James Cook winning the rushing title. Josh Allen also had career-high completion percentage and won MVP under him last season. If he becomes a head coach, would be amongst the youngest at that spot. Man, I don't know if Mike McDaniel, did Dan Campbell really make the decision just to avoid somebody leaving him? Did Ben Johnson leaving break Dan's heart? Is Dan Campbell heartbroken, having separation anxiety? Why? Why? Listen, I think Drew might have a chance, but Joe Brady and Mike McDaniel are the best right now. Right now. Why don't, in my opinion, before I get out of here, and thank you guys for listening in. I know you guys really love it when it's live, but I'll try to hop in the chat, hop in the comments, and I appreciate it. Why is this the toughest staple for the Lions? Is to say, this is our year, best of the best. Let's do our thing and put all our chips in the table. Two good coaches, a Flores, a Joe Brady, a McDaniel. Let's win it all, and we can break up. Our short little fling can end. Why? Why can't it happen? Am I wrong? Am I over dramatic? What is your thoughts regarding the Lions OC now that you had a little bit more time? I'll return on Wednesday again, full on. We're operating at Lions on SI. We have the report from Donnie Druin. We graded Ahmed Hassani's changing his number. Check out Lions on SI for daily videos, analysis, insider coverage. Detroit Sports Podcast, myself, is credentialed to cover the Detroit Lions. As you know, your favorite homie podcaster doing his thing, covering the Detroit Lions, bringing you videos, analysis, highlights, strong takes, strong debates, never backing away, and willing to engage in strong Detroit Lions conversations. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in on this Tuesday. It's a cold one. Stay warm. Stay warm, everybody. And let's come again and chat on Wednesday. And as always, check in with Crunch Time at 8:45 on Wednesday. We'll have a conversation, and we're trying to go at 7 o'clock as many days in a row consecutively as humanly possible. I'm John Macaroon. This has been the Tuesday edition of the Detroit Lions Lone Wolves podcast. I'm John Macaroon. I represent the Detroit Sports Podcast. This broadcast is made possible thanks to OnSI, a wonderful sports partner that lets us publish, do great things, and be part of the sports media. And they give us the freedom and control to cover sports in the most entertaining, fascinating, interesting way, and journalistically credible way possible. Thanks, everybody. Let's talk soon.